Joanne Williams is one of Milwaukee's best-known journalists and a longtime news anchor. She's taken on a special project that has put her on the other side of the camera. It has also taken her on a journey that is more than 50 years in the making. Joanne produced a documentary that takes us back to 1966 and tells the story of a high school in Milwaukee, one in Kaukauna, and a controversial play, along with the state of race relations during the Civil Rights Movement. Joanne, welcome back to Connect MKE.
Thank you very much.
I love the story of how this documentary came to be, how you rediscovered this incident, this situation that happened back in 1966. Can you share that with us, please?
Well, I was cleaning out my garage one day and I came across a box marked high school stuff. And everybody has a box like that. And I looked at it and I found a copy of my high school newspaper, the King's Page. And I was looking at it and I only saved one copy of my high school newspaper. And that was it. And on the front page, it said something like, King welcomes students from Kaukauna. And I said, I remember this exchange. And I looked at the date on the newspaper and it was 1966. I came across this newspaper in 2016. And I said, oh, this was 50 years ago. I better do something about this. So that's how I got started.
What is the exchange? What is the story?
It's about a high school student exchange between Kaukauna High School up in the Fox River Valley of Wisconsin and Rufus King High School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A social studies teacher at Kaukauna wanted his students to have a broader view of the world. So to do that, he arranged an exchange of students between Rufus King High School and Kaukauna because he wanted them to perform a play. And the play he chose was In White America, which is the history of African Americans from slavery to civil rights. And in Kaukauna, there are no black people. So he came up with this exchange, he and another teacher, Bernie Hupperts, and Ruth Thomas, a black English teacher at Rufus King, came up with this idea of an exchange. And kids from King went up to Kaukauna and they lived with families there for a month. And then the kids from Kaukauna came down to Milwaukee and lived with those families for a month, and they all did the play. So it was a 2-month exchange, and it all happened in 1966, as I say, right in the middle of the Civil Rights Movement. So I said to myself, this is a story, and I'm going to tell it.
What made the exchange a story that was worth telling? It's hard. Some people don't remember 1966 because they weren't born then. What made this such a remarkable time and the exchange of these high schools so different?
It wasn't just a short exchange like for a day or a weekend. It was a 2-month exchange, and it had a purpose. And the purpose was to perform the play. And the play had a purpose. The play was to tell the story of the history of African Americans in the United States and what it's like to be a black man in white America. So that's what was important about the story itself. And I wanted people to know that this had happened because people didn't know it happened unless they were there. And as a matter of fact, one of the participants said when they did the play in 66 in Kaukauna, they just did it as sort of a presentation, and that's it. Nothing else happened. But when we did the play again in 2016, then there were talkbacks and there were conversations. And he said that even in 66, they could have had that. But they felt that they saw this depiction of American history and then they just let it go. Well, when I realized that was the attitude they had then, and I knew there would be a different attitude 50 years later, that's when I knew it would be significant to tell this story.
How did people who participated in this talk about the impact it had on their lives? I mean, in 1966, this idea of this exchange and families that didn't really have any connection, having their kids spend a month in communities they didn't know anything about, that was a pretty big deal.
It was a pretty big deal. And it was pretty, they didn't know what to expect on either end. The white families didn't know what to expect of the black students who would be coming there. And the black families didn't know what to expect from the white students that would be coming to live with them. So it was a cultural exchange as much as it was an exchange to do the play. And I think they were quite courageous to do this. In 1966, black and white folks had whole different points of view of the world, and things were going on in the world in the civil rights movement that had no impact in Kaukauna, but had a big impact in Milwaukee. In fact, in Kaukauna, some people had never seen black people before at all, except on television. They'd never had any interactions with them. So it was a brave move on the part of the parents to let them go. And it was a brave move on the part of the kids to do it. They didn't know what to expect. But everything actually turned out all right.
And as young people, who were the folks who were then young people, as adults, how did they talk about the impact that taking part in this had on their lives? How did it change or shape their lives?
Well, several of them said that it changed their life. And it's something that they will never forget. Most of them went into service occupations. They became teachers and principals. And one of the participants got involved in a race relations organization in Louisiana, where he lives now. They said that it was, they didn't know what to expect when they went into each other's homes. But they learned what it was like to be the other person. They learned what their families were like. They learned that their families were very similar, even though they were different colors. And it had a huge impact on their life, and they remember it to this day.
What do you want people to take away from the film?
The film has a message of empathy, optimism, and hope. And if we can have empathy for each other, we can be optimistic, and there's hope. So that's my goal with this film.
Joanne, thanks so much for spending some time to talk to us about this. It is a remarkable journey that's 50 plus years in the making, and we wish you continued success.
Thank you.